What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Commander Deck Tech video. This is again for competitive EDH. We have Dungeon of Death, Acererak, CEDH. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons player. This is a deck by Jump Mario, so go check them out on Moxfield. I will have the deck linked in the description below. So Acererak does need a bit of a translation here since this is in a foreign language. Acererak is a 3-mana mono black zombie wizard. When it enters the battlefield, if you have not completed the dungeon Tomb of Annihilation, return Acererak to its owner's hand and venture into the dungeon. Whenever he attacks, for each opponent, you create a 2/2 black zombie creature token, unless that player sacrifices a creature. Now, something to know about this trigger is that you have 3 dungeons to choose from, and the way that dungeons work is whenever you trigger that again, because venture into the dungeon is kind of like a key phrase now, that triggers it again. So you go to different rooms in this dungeon each time you trigger venture into the dungeon, every time you get that key phrasing. What we want to do here is infinitely play our Acererak, and then we can play our other win cons easily. The key here, though, is that you do not use the Tomb of Annihilation. If you use the Tomb of Annihilation, Acererak will not bounce itself back to your hand. That's the cool thing about this, is that you won't have to worry about a commander tax, since he just bounces himself back to your hand and will only cost you 3 mana. But you will get that trigger, and the other dungeons, I don't know them off the top of my head, I don't know all of their triggers. They do result in you drawing cards, so as long as you don't go into the Tomb of Annihilation, you don't go through that, you will be fine. You will go off infinitely, because you can just start a new dungeon, and it can be the dungeon that isn't Tomb of Annihilation. It could be the same dungeon, and both of those dungeons will allow you to draw cards. So going over creatures here, we have Walking Ballista. By the way, all of these decks that I go over, they have primers and just a great detailed description of what you're supposed to do with the deck. Walking Ballista is no doubt part of an infinite combo here with Mikaeus the Unhallowed. So once you're able to get your infinite mana and draw all the cards in your deck, you probably have a surefire way of winning. And we have Blood Pet here, 1 mana creature that sacks itself for 1 black mana, great early on. We have Carrion Feeder, you can sack a creature. We have Gravecrawler, part of an infinite combo. If we have a zombie out there, it just makes it easy to go infinite and just constantly replay it. We have Acererak, another cheap 1 mana creature sack outlet. We have Dark Confidant to get through our deck a little bit quicker. We have Dauthi Voidwalker. We get to hurt our opponents because if a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, instead exile it with a void counter on it, we can tap it and sacrifice it to choose an exiled card an opponent owns with a void counter on it, so that we can then play it this turn without paying its mana cost. And then we have Magus of the Bridge, 3 mana black human wizard. Whenever a non-token creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. This does go infinite with Gravecrawler, but we're going to see exactly how in the primer. And of course, whenever a creature is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you have to exile Magus of the Bridge. We have Opposition Agent, so we get to steal some cards whenever an opponent wants to tutor something from their library. We have Tatterkite. Tatterkite can have counters placed on it, so that's also part of a combo here. We're going to read about it in the primer. We have Crystalline Crawler. This does go infinite with Mikaeus the Unhallowed, gives you infinite mana. We have Necrotic Ooze, has activated abilities of all creature cards in all graveyards. So I'm imagining this is going to synergize with some sort of infinite combo in here. We have Pitiless Plunderer. Of course, this is a combo card. Whenever another creature we control dies, we get a treasure token that we can then sacrifice for mana. We have Tormod the Desecrator. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, you get a 2/2 tapped black zombie creature token, so it's kind of like Magus of the Bridge. Very easy to combo with something like Pitiless Plunderer, because if you have a Gravecrawler, that creature's just going to keep coming back. You get yourself a 2/2 zombie, and Pitiless Plunderer gives you a ton of treasure tokens that you can then use to play your Gravecrawler again. At that point, it's just about what else are you able to do. We have Mikaeus, of course, great if you have creatures with easy ways of manipulating their +1/+1 counters like Crystalline Crawler and Walking Ballista. And we have Villas, Broker of Blood, because whenever you lose life, you get to draw that many cards, and that's always good. We get our sorceries here. We have Profane Tutor. I knew this was going to be a staple in mono black for competitive EDH, but we're starting to see it more often now. It's just Demonic Tutor. You have to wait a couple turns, who cares? We have Imperial Seal, put a card on top of your library, you lose 2 life. We have Reanimate, get a creature card back from a graveyard to the battlefield. Doesn't matter what graveyard it is, you lose life equal to its converted mana cost. We got Thoughtseize, so you get to hurt your opponents if they have something juicy in their hands, you want to get rid of it. We do have Demonic Tutor and Diabolic Intent, because what's better than having to wait for a card you search for? Just put it straight to your hand. We have Feed the Swarm to get rid of a creature or an enchantment. We have Knight's Whisper and Sign in Blood, so we pay 2 mana and draw 2 cards, lose 2 life. We have Unmarked Grave. We get to search our library for a non-legendary card and put it into our graveyard and then shuffle. So we have a lot of good combo pieces that we want in our graveyard so that we can then easily bring them back. We have Agadeem's Awakening. That's one of the ways that we can bring back a ton of creature cards from our graveyard to the battlefield. And then we have Buried Alive to get more creatures into our grave. We have Grim Tutor, another tutor. We have Toxic Deluge, one of the best removal spells in the game. We have Dark Petition, Demonic Tutor, but with an added benefit of just giving us 3 extra mana if we have Spell Mastery. We have Final Parting, another great way that we get to tutor up a card to our hand and then have one end up in the graveyard. We have Peer into the Abyss, because hey, just pay half your life so that you get to have half your deck in your hand. Makes it very easy to win in competitive EDH. We have Culling the Weak. Sack a creature, you get 4 black mana. Dark Ritual, 1 black mana for 3 black mana. That's always a good deal. We have Entomb. Just take any 1 card from your library and throw it into your graveyard. We got ourselves a Fatal Push. Destroy a creature if it has converted mana cost 2 or less. And if we have Revolt, destroy that creature if it has converted mana cost 4 or less. And then we have Reign of Filth. So each land we control has sacrifice this land to add 1 black to our pool until end of turn. And we have Ulcerate. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn, and we lose 3 life. Vampiric Tutor, another great search card. 1 mana, instant speed. We have Cabal Ritual if we have Threshold. Instead of just 3 mana, if we have 7 or more cards in our graveyard, we get 5 black mana to our pool. And yes, I still call it pool, I'm not changing for anybody. We have Imp's Mischief. Change the target of target spell with a single target. We lose life equal to that spell's converted mana cost, but that's so good. We have Deflecting Swat in red. That's kind of what this was, but in black. We have Shallow Grave, put the top creature card from our graveyard into play as though it were just played. That creature is unaffected by Summoning Sickness, and then you remove the creature from the game at the end of any turn. And then we have Withering Boon to counter a target summon spell and pay 3 life. We have Baleful Mastery. We get to pay 2 mana rather than pay its mana cost. If the 2 mana cost was paid, an opponent draws a card. So it can be dirt cheap, you just have to give card draw to an opponent. You get to exile target creature or planeswalker, so that's really good instant speed. And Deadly Rollic's even better, because if we control a commander, we may cast a spell without paying its mana cost and exile a creature. We have Snuff Out. If we control a swamp, we may pay 4 life instead of paying its mana cost. Destroy target non-black creature, it can't be regenerated. And then we have Ad Nauseam, because if you want to go off and win in a single turn, you just go card by card off the top of your library until you're at a point where you can't really afford to lose too much more life, and then you have enough in your hand to just go off and win with a combo. In our artifacts, we have Chrome Mox for mana, Lotus Petal, Mana Crypt, Mox Amber, Mox Diamond, Mox Opal, Mana Vault, Soul Ring. In Arcane Signet for mana, we have Altar of Dementia. Kind of a win con here. If you have any sort of infinite loop there, you sacrifice a creature, target player puts a number of cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power from the top of their library into their graveyard, so you could potentially mill out your opponents. We have Conquerors Flail. As long as it's attached to a creature, your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. So this card's crazy because it's kind of like a Grand Abolisher, but one that you can throw into any deck. And you don't really need to care about the multicolor aspect. We have Defense Grid, pretty much a must-have if you're playing any non-blue deck in competitive play. During each player's turn, each other player's spells cost 3 more to play. So it really makes it hard to counter spells, especially if you have something like a Force of Will. We have Fellwar Stone for mana, Grim Monolith for mana. We have Jet Medallion for a bit of cost reduction in black. We have Wishclaw Talisman because it's a great tutor card. For just 2 mana, we pay a mana and tap it. We get to tutor, we give it to an opponent. We have Phyrexian Altar, sack a creature to add 1 mana of any 1 color. That will easily go infinite, give us infinite mana with something like a Gravecrawler, and if we have any way of getting more of those zombie tokens. We have Animate Dead, Dance of the Dead, just to get back some creature from our graveyard, or any graveyard. Along with Necromancy there, we have Bridge from Below. Same thing as the Magus card. This and Gravecrawler is a nice combo because we're just going to keep getting 2/2 black zombies, and we just get to continuously loop that, so we get to use something like a Phyrexian Altar for infinite mana. And then we have Necropotence because it's a ton of value for just paying a life and exiling the top card of our library, setting those aside so at the beginning of our discard phase, we get all of them to our hand and we get to choose which ones we want to keep. In our lands, we do have some utility in here because this is mono black, you should have some. Ancient Tomb for extra mana, Blast Zone, just so we get to set the charge counters on it, and then we sacrifice it to destroy each non-land permanent with a converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on it. Cavern of Souls to make our creatures uncounterable, or certain creatures emergent zone, so we can give all of our spells flash for a turn. We have Phyrexian Towers so that we can sacrifice a creature for a couple extra mana, and then we have Urza Saga so that we can easily just get ourselves a mana rock, replace it once we get to that third lore counter. It really is a pretty good land. Now quickly going over the primer here, the infinite mana combos, we have Mikaeus the Unhallowed plus any sack outlet plus Crystalline Crawler, so that we continuously just get back our Crystalline Crawler and then remove those counters for infinite mana. We have any zombie plus Gravecrawler plus Phyrexian Altar plus Pitiless Plunderer or Magus of the Bridge or Bridge from Below or Tormod the Desecrator, which will give us infinite mana. We have Mikaeus the Unhallowed plus Phyrexian Altar plus Tatterkite. Because Undying doesn't really do anything to Tatterkite, it just comes back without a +1/+1 counter, so we can just continuously sacrifice it to Phyrexian Altar or any sack outlet and get a ton of value. Or we have Mikaeus the Unhallowed plus any sack outlet plus Tatterkite plus Pitiless Plunderer, so we just get infinite mana anyway. Once we complete a dungeon, we get to start another, and it can be the same one we already completed. And this does go to the official rulings on magic.wizards.com, so just in case if you were worried, it does work out that way. And once we have infinite mana, we can just keep replaying our commander however many times we want to, until we draw as many cards as we want to. We get to our win cons, which we do have a Walking Ballista, which is a way that we can deal infinite damage to our opponents. So let me know what you think about Acererak. Again, this is a brand new commander just spoiled from the Dungeons & Dragons crossover set. The deck link will be in the description below, so if you want to check it out, there you go. You all have a wonderful day. I will see you all next time.